Africa, we will have to import more refined fuel in future. So that means petrol and all that, which will be bad for us. But the good news, and let's not only look at the bad news, the good news for South Africa is that precious metal prices are up, and we are a major exporter of that. The rand is actually holding up quite nicely, despite everything that's going on internationally. We are also major exporters of coal, for example, which prices have gone up as well. So there certainly is a silver lining for South Africa. It's not only bad news, but the reality is that we are part of the rest of the world, and some of these price increases is going to affect us quite negatively as well.
Okay, Dawie, so it's not all doom and gloom. Let's look at two issues. Let's just remind me again why SAFREP has closed down. Is this temporary? What's the issue there? Are there chances that it will reopen and possibly create a bit of relief for us here in South Africa, regarding oil?
Yeah.
And then question number 2 is the issue around, obviously, this escalating, this chain reaction that the rising oil price creates, not only in South Africa, but globally. So food prices goes up, transport goes up, etc., etc., etc. Everything becomes more expensive. And that impact on us at South Africa. And last but not least, I'm throwing 3 questions at you.
Yeah.
If I understand that Russia and Ukraine are possibly going into talks sometime today. And if there is some sort of reprieve, if Russia then decides to go into some sort of negotiations and agreements with Ukraine, can we then hope that the oil situation will then improve in terms of pricing, not only of oil, but everything else as well?
Yeah, let me try again in reverse order, if that's okay. I do I've got some personal connections with Russia, and I think I've got a bit of an insight on what's going on in Russia. I understand the Russians, and I understand the history quite well. I don't think this war is going to end. I think Putin, he's not going to withdraw from the Ukraine. I don't even think there's going to be a settlement between the two. I think Putin is in there to take over the Ukraine, and there are many reasons why he wants to do that. And I think we simply have to live with it. I don't think there will be some sort of agreement between the two. On some of the other issues, South Africa's refineries, the last refinery, the one in Durban, needs to be closed down. I'm not sure if it's closed down yet. I think there are many reasons for that. One is that it's old technology. You need to invest quite a lot of capital in there. And I think that the big shareholders, of which Shell was one or is one, they wanted to see if they could perhaps get some feedstock, oil or gas or whatever, in the east coast of South Africa and to feed that specific refinery. Now that they basically are not allowed to explore anymore, I don't think that refinery is going to come up to speed again. And then on prices generally, the problem with inflation is that inflation is a process. So even if, and what I'm concerned about is that these increases in prices like the oil price and many other prices will accelerate this process, and the process will sort of start getting its own momentum. And we've seen that. We've seen that before in worldwide inflation during the 1980s, as an example. Is that inflation started living off its own steam. And even if the oil price comes down, the knock-on effect is still going to be with us, and it's still going to be with us for a long time. Let me give you one example. If you change one significant price in the economy, like interest rates or the oil price or whatever, it can take as much as 2 years for the ripple effect to work its way right through the economy. So I'm afraid if the oil price comes down to much lower than where it is at the moment, then it doesn't mean that food prices suddenly want to start falling again. In fact, the momentum that we currently have will mean, even if some of those prices are coming down, that we the consumers will still see the price increases are actually on its way. It's like a tsunami happening somewhere in the ocean. Once it's happened, the waves are coming, and it's going to take some time before it hits you, but it's going to hit you. It's on its way.
So no reprieve for us as consumers. Finally, I know I did say it was my final 3 questions. What is this doing? We just thought that we're in the clear I'd like to say post-COVID. I don't even know what's happening on that front, but we are going to be talking to a scientist a little later on about the possible fifth wave in South Africa.
Yeah.
But we did kind of think that we're over the worst as far as COVID is concerned, thinking that perhaps the economy is on is in revival mode. What's all of this? What's the impact now on property prices?
Well, on property prices, depending on where you are, some property prices are actually going up quite nicely in South Africa, for example, in the Western Cape, prices are going up. But I think the important question here is a question about inflation, or maybe let me just step back for a moment, and that is that the world economy, including the South African economy, was very, very hard hit the past 2 years. Now, we're going to get the economic growth data for last year during this week, and it's going to look not too bad, probably around about 5% or so, but that is after a year before, a horrible year before. So the world economy went through, it really was devastated by the lockdowns. And I think many politicians, including in South Africa, we managed the whole thing in many instances incorrectly. And now all of a sudden, we have this new development. We've got a development that's happening in the Ukraine and in Russia. The South African fiscal accounts, what the Minister of Finance has available, is very, very thinly stretched. He simply cannot come to the aid of the economy. We simply do not have capacity. But you're right, in terms of property prices, some property prices are actually going up in certain places. But all these inflationary pressures will force the Reserve Bank to increase interest rates. And interest rate is the single most important variable when it comes to property prices.
Absolutely.
And an increase, depending on how much they're going to do that, an increase in interest rates is likely to have a dampening effect on property prices. That always happens. So interest rates is the most important variable when it comes to property prices. It doesn't mean that you have to stop buying a property, or you have to, of course, you have to make sure that everything works out, your finances and your budget and all of that. But I don't think property prices will keep on increasing very, very sharp in this kind of environment.
Dawie Roodt, senior economist, thank you indeed for your insights into the fuel price, property price, and just the situation not only in South Africa, but the Russian invasion of Ukraine, how it is impacting all around the world. Thank you indeed for your time. Go well. Until the next time, as always, have a good day. It is exactly 8:24 a.m.
Nasiri product. Don't forget this name.